Sean Payton is heading to the Rocky Mountains to become the next head coach for the Denver Broncos. Now, this wasn't cheap at all because we always talked about there's got to be some compensation for New Orleans since they had his rights on the contract. So the Saints will receive a first-round pick this year and a second-round pick next year. Denver gets Sean Payton as well as a third-round pick in next year's draft here. But the compensation, is it fair for the Super Bowl winning head coach? And how does this Broncos team look going forward now that they have somebody competent at the position?
Well, I mean, would you trade Bradley Chubb for Sean Payton?
Without question.
Okay, then that's what they just did. They traded Brad, and they flopped 2s and 3s. They got a 2 and a 3. They flopped it. So maybe it's a little bit more, but that's what they did. They traded Bradley Chubb, for a guy who's going to run your whole program. I think it's fair. I mean, it's a hell of a price. I mean, it's really what they did. I think you got to do it every single time. You're hoping to build sustainable success with Sean, and Sean seems like he's got the energy, he's got the enthusiasm, he's got the knowledge to be able to help them build and navigate through this. And he's going to, if anybody can, coach the quarterback to play better, Sean can. Sean can. And Sean's going to demand from Russell to do what he wants him to do. It isn't going to be Russ demanding what he wants to do. So I think there's going to be some give and take in that arrangement. And if Russ has any juice left in the tank, we're going to find out. And I'm sure they're going to be on search for the next quarterback after that. But look, I think it was all about the ownership here. And I think this is – I said this from the beginning. If I were Sean Payton, I would have taken the Denver job. I mean, I thought it was the best job out there because of the owner.
Yeah, you talked about that all throughout this kind of offseason for these teams that didn't make the playoffs, saying that, hey, Denver is the job that is seen as having the best and most stable ownership, and we see the biggest head coaching candidate end up going there. But there was a little bit of stuff that was being made around when Sean Payton decided to go to the Broncos that maybe Denver's first choice was DeMeco Ryans, and then Adam Schefter then comes out and says no. They hadn't spoken with DeMeco Ryans since last week, and it's been kind of Payton who they've been zeroing in on. What have you heard? I mean, not like it matters much, but just from a curiosity standpoint, did you hear anything about Ryans maybe being option number one and then them, quote, settling for Sean Payton, or was it Payton all along here for the Broncos?
I think they did the due diligence. I think they found if they could find a coach who fit the profile, right? So what I think Penner did was exactly how you have to find talent. He put together a profile of what he wanted, about what characteristics were needed, who could do the job. He defined the job, which most of these owners don't do. Most of these owners say, I want an offensive coach, or, I heard David Tepper say, well, they changed the rules in favor of the offense. That's why I wanted to hire an offensive head coach. Okay. If that's what you think the job is, then go ahead, right? Then go ahead, do it. I don't think that's the job. However, that being said, I think he'll learn eventually that's not the job. But Penner defined the job. Penner said, this is what I want. I want a CEO. I want somebody who can align us from top to bottom, working bottom up to top. I want somebody who's going to be a strategist who can see something from 35,000 feet and, somebody who brings credibility. I don't think that fits DeMeco. I think DeMeco's he's going to be like a lot of young coaches. He's going to embark on a journey that, it seems like he's got it, but once he starts it, he's going to say, holy shit, I never thought this job was as hard as it is. Right? So I think, to me, this nonsense that he had that job and turned it away, I think it's always just rumors. And to me, go back to what the owner said, what he was looking for, it fits Sean Payton.
That's kind of was my read on it, but it was interesting to see Ian Rappaport of NFL Network put out those tweets. He was saying that the Broncos had zeroed in on DeMeco Ryans, secretly tried to lure Jim Harbaugh from Michigan, negotiated with Sean Payton with the deal, tried to hire DeMeco Ryans again, then finalized with Sean Payton as their head coach. I mean, that seems like it's a lot going on there. How much of that is true? Who knows? I mean, the order of operation might be different than what Rappaport was told. These things are all kind of working in back channels anyways, but now that Payton is in Denver, you mentioned Russell Wilson because that's the immediate question for this Broncos team. They paid a lot of money and draft capital to get Russell Wilson. Do you think that our favorite cook can be fixed? Are we going back to the gourmet restaurant?
I don't know if he can be cook. I don't know if he can. I think a lot of it's going to be his willingness and his ability to be adaptable. He's set in his ways. You know, he's like the guy who's been a bachelor all the time and gets married. You know, all of a sudden, you know, he's setting his ways. Wait a minute, I go play. You know, I go out Tuesday night. I go out Wednesday night. You know, like I'm setting my ways, man. I can't change.
This is my
he's
process.
setting his ways. Yeah, I think he's set in his ways. So, you know, I mean, I think look. One thing you know about Sean has been highly influenced by. I said this to somebody in the league, and I think it's completely true. Had Sean not been with Parcells, he would not have been the coach that he is today. I think Sean would admit that. Sean learned a lot from Parcells. He learned a lot about being a head coach. He learned about demanding of the assistant. He learned a lot. And I think because of that, I think Sean will go in there and either he'll get Russell to play good or he'll find somebody who can.
And I think that's kind of the situation for Denver. And it's either he's going to fix Russell Wilson and Russell Wilson's going to get back to the high level, or he's going to find a quarterback that can go in there and play well. I know Drew Brees had an interesting comment to say about this. He said, he was describing about how this is a pivotal move for Russell Wilson, Sean Payton now being the head coach. He said, quote, "To me, this is set up to be Russell Wilson's prime, especially with Sean Payton and a system that's going to be built around him. This is a great opportunity for Russell Wilson." Now, Russell Wilson has idolized Drew Brees because being a shorter quarterback, he's like, all right, how does Drew play? That's how I have to operate heading into the league. So he was always a guy that Russell looked up to. I would imagine that Russell will pick Drew Brees' brain over the offseason about how to fit into this Sean Payton offense. I think there's some potential upside. I hope I'm not going to try to fall for this thing once again with the Denver Broncos, but I think this is an upgrade massively from the head coaching position. Not quite as big of an upgrade as Urban Meyer to Doug Peterson, but going from Hackett to Sean Payton is a pretty damn big upgrade. I feel like just having a coach that's not in over their heads and knowing what it's supposed to look like to win Super Bowls and to win consistently.
Right, and a coach who can see the game through the quarterback's eyes. It's not just about we're running this play. And look, you know, but he's got to get Russell to change, right? He's got to get Russell to say, okay, all right, when this happens, we're doing this. When this happens, I want you to do this. I mean, it's got to be give and take here. And if he doesn't do that, you know, then it's going to be hard. But I think he will. I think, look, you know, there was a sign that when you used to leave Barstow, California to go to Vegas, it said, "Eat here or we both starve." Right? I think Russell's at that point. Either he eats with Sean or he's going to starve.
Yeah, no, I think that's 100% where Russell Wilson is at because, I mean, at this point in his career, if it doesn't work out, everyone's going to point to Russell Wilson and say, hey, man, you were the one that didn't adapt your game, and that's why this thing didn't work in Denver. Thanks for watching the GM Shuffle with Michael Lombardi, and for more videos like this, make sure to subscribe to VSiN Live and the GM Shuffle podcast with Michael Lombardi, presented by DraftKings and VSiN, wherever you get your podcasts.